Hey, Uncle Roddus here. Okay, sorry about that. Right, let's get the volumes right. Hey, Uncle Roddus back again. I'm going to do a 2019 vinyl roundup for you. It's not a best of the year. It's not a best of like new music because I do collect a lot of new music in New Zealand, new music, which is probably most of the new music I get. But I also collect a lot of older New Zealand music and reissues and stuff like that. And there's just so much of it coming in this year. It's been a bumper year, really has been a bumper year. I've probably another 300 to 400 records been added to my collection this year. Mostly, like say, New Zealand stuff, but there's been some other interesting releases. So yeah, I'm not organised enough, and I don't get to listen to a lot of the new stuff enough. To make a list of the best of the year, but there is some of that, as in like the best of new releases in New Zealand. There's some particular records that have particularly stood out for me, and they're all quite recent ones. So I'll get to those in a minute. Actually, one of them's playing in behind me at the moment. So there is some international stuff here, but there is a lot of New Zealand stuff, and it's all old and new and reissues and all sorts of crap like that. So let's kick off with this one, and this is one of the few international releases that I brought, new releases that I brought this year. To be honest, it's certainly as far as pop music's concerned and popular music. The Raconteurs Help Us Stranger, so their first LP for quite some time, I think 10 years or more. They've reconvened, and Jack and Brendan have got back together and done a really strong album, really good, really enjoyed it. They got a fair bit of play a couple of months ago when it arrived. So yeah, really pleased to grab that. On vinyl. I do have the CDs of the first two. This was just on black vinyl, wasn't it? Yeah. This version, I'm sure there's probably some coloured versions around. I'll pop that back over there. One release that I got very excited about this year, and that is a compilation release of older music. This one here, Strain, Crack and Break, the music from Nurse with Wound list. This is volume 1, so we are expecting some more to come out. This is a fantastic compilation. Really excited about it, and the next volume. This volume, it's funny they started with France, because this volume here from France, now of course all the music's mostly from the early 70s, late 60s. The Nurse with Wound list was put together in 1979, I believe, and this is curated by one of the members who made that list from Nurse with Wound, Stephen get his name here, Steve Stapleton, yes, right, and it's on Finders Keepers Records. Really excited about getting the next volumes when they do arrive, and I'm keeping an eye out for that. I actually had, like I say, the one thing about this is that I actually had at least 3 to 4 of the records that are highlighted on here, like the Igor Wakovich, the ZNR, the Red Noise one. I think all of those I had, or reissues of the original LPs. But yeah, fantastically mutant music. That is a great compilation, and I am so looking forward to the rest of the volumes. Now I'm pretty sure this is something I picked up this year. So some jazz music. This is a reissue. So John Zorn's Zadok label, he doesn't put anything out on vinyl hardly at all, but there was this actually, to be honest, John Zorn's music, there's about 7 or 8 vinyl releases that have just been staggered out over the last few years, reissues and special editions of music that has already been released mostly. But he put out 4 records to do with recouping some losses that he made with the Pledge Me that went under, and they had a big project involved with Pledge Me, and they lost, I don't know, they lost their money or whatever happened exactly, the whole story, but they were involved in that. So to recoup, they put out the special edition. So it's a limited edition. There were 4 records put out. This is the best of the ones for me personally. This is Sanhedrin, which is Masada unreleased studio recordings from 94 to 97. This is a slightly truncated version of the original CD. I think it was a double CD. I do have that because I had pretty much all of the Masada stuff. So yeah, that was really exciting. These are fantastic pressings, and they sound like stunning, and this is stunning jazz music. And speaking of stunning jazz music, I think this might be the last of my international highlights, but this is fairly recent. You would have seen this on a video possibly already, if not. Although in saying that, I've got like about 6 videos sitting in the backlog from the last couple of months that I haven't posted yet of new arrivals, and I'm going to actually post this one before the end of the year, so it might be, you might not have seen this. Irreversible Entanglements. This is on the, what is it called? The International Anthem label. So this got highlighted for me from Roger in the VC this year, and I stood up and took notice of his high recommendation, and picked up a copy of it from Amazon before the taxes got put on from our government. So and absolutely blew me away. This is a fantastic free jazz, black experience poetry. Yeah, a very emotional record. The first time I heard it, it had a very good, big impact on me. Yeah, especially the last track, Projects, is interesting. Very, very interesting set of words that were put to some of that music. Yeah, I don't know. I can't say that. Anyway, this is the highlight, I believe, so far of this international anthem, and they have quite a lot of records out. I mean, they've got a catalogue of around about 50 releases at the moment. They've been going for 5-6 years maybe, and lo and behold, if I didn't pick up some more of them, I picked up another one when I bought this, but I picked up 3 more only just a few days ago, because it turns out this label's getting distributed here locally, and so that's fantastic. And I picked up 3 other albums, so that's the one that put me onto the label, and I am really excited about them. And all of the ones I've heard so far are fantastic records. So getting into some second-hand older stuff that I scored this year. One of the grails for me was this one, the Builders, Bill Irene, Let's Play LP. This is an LP that they put out back in the mid-80s, that I actually had a copy of this originally in my original vinyl collection back in the day. Now, I've picked up a lot of Bill Irene stuff in the last 4 or 5 years, and become a lot more familiar with his music than I was back in the day, but this was the only one of his that I actually owned at the time, back in the 80s, and it's eluded me. I've picked up pretty much most of his discography in the last few years, but this is the one that eluded me, and it was the one that had the biggest price tag with it. Well, apart from a couple more that are just way out of my league now, but yeah, fantastic record. Probably one of his most commercial sounding productions. The music's still damn good. I don't know, yeah, really good. Picked this up for under 3 figures. So really happy to have a copy of it, and it plays really well. The cover's in reasonably good nick. So yeah, that was a bit of a grail for the year. And another grail, to be honest, is this one. I did actually pay 3 figures for this one, just over. Songs for the Dead of Gandamak by Phil Davidson. Now, this is probably one of the very few free jazz records out of New Zealand. There is not a lot of free jazz music comes out of New Zealand. There is some. I actually seen some live stuff by a band called Sewage at the Lines of Flight Festival. They played there twice that I've been to it. But this is from 1979. It is a self-released sort of record, but it says by Bent Records. Now, a lot of the stuff on here is kind of written by other people. So he's done some stuff by John Coltrane, a Gillespie, Coates and Gillespie track, and then a traditional thing. But he has also written some of his own tracks, and there's a particularly fantastic track on side 2 called Pounding the Rice, I Go to Sleep at 7 minutes 22, which is him on a piano absolutely going hell for leather, and it is an absolutely stunning piece of free jazz. This is a bit of a New Zealand grail, and there isn't a lot of recorded music, free jazz on vinyl in this particular idiom. Another exciting buy this year I picked up quite a lot of early 70s or mid 70s progressive rock blues rock, whatever, all the different art rock. There's lots of different types, variations of rock music in New Zealand. And this one here, I had heard of it, but I had never heard them. Think is the name of the band, and We Will Give You a Buzz. And I actually picked this up for on a Trade Me auction. It's not a big seller, as in like $700 or $800, but it can go for $200 to $300, I think, in good condition. This one, I think people were kind of holding back because it looked pretty shitty. I took the risk. I got it for $130 plus and got it here, and it looked pretty dirty. Cleaned it up with my record cleaning machine, and it plays fantastic. There is hardly a sound on it apart from one mark which comes through with a slight crackle, but this is actually a stunning piece of vinyl, and musically I was really impressed. So that was a great score. Trade Me has been my friend this year, and I've probably bought more on Trade Me than I've ever bought before, and this is another one, the Dum Dum Boys. Now this is an original New Zealand punk from I couldn't tell you what year off the top of my head, maybe 84 or 86. I wasn't familiar with them, and their name had came up a couple of times, and someone had sort of highlighted this record, and then I'd seen it come up a couple of times, and no one was buying it. It was actually an auction, and there was 3 punk records for $60 each, and you could pick one. And the other two, they were good records. I think one was I can't remember what they were now, but they were English punky ones. And they had this one. This usually goes for more like $100, and I got it for 60, and it's in really good condition, apart from a few creases and a bit of writing and shit on the sleeve. But yeah, this is one of the best New Zealand punk albums I've heard, to be honest. It's fantastic. It just got reissued only at the end of the year. Flying Out had it on reissue, but I didn't bother, of course, because I'd already got it. Really heavily Damned influence, I think. So yeah, really good punk rock record. So one of the highlights in the compilations for New Zealand compilations that I picked up just recently is this one, again off Trade Me. This is the BFM, I think they call it, which is the university radio station up in Auckland. Yeah, BFM. Actually, I think they call it B95 FM nowadays, but this is from a compilation of Auckland music from 83 to 86. Well, it's not strictly Auckland music, because it starts off with the Expendables, who were a Christchurch band. And I mean, Chris Knox was in Auckland, but he was actually from Dunedin originally. And this is a really good compilation of stuff that was getting played on BFM radio, student radio at the time, and it's a pretty well-known and famous, but quite rare, hard to get your hands on compilation of New Zealand music. I really was impressed with it. It's in really fantastic good condition, and the artwork there is pretty dodgy. That's a what's his name? David Mitchell. Piece of art from David Mitchell, who was the guitarist, I think, with the 3Ds. A couple of droney records, New Zealand drone. So I picked up a lot of underground drone music this year, really, and some fantastic releases. But one that really sticks out for me, and this is pretty pure drone really, is this RST. Where's the front of it? That might be the front of it there, actually. Yeah, RST, just self-titled, I believe, on UTech Records. Double LP. I think there's about one big long droney piece on each side. Andrew Moon, I think, is the name of the man. I actually brought the record directly from him. I managed to get his email from a friend on Facebook, and they put me onto him, and I got a copy of it. So there's not much, it's not easy to get your hands on, but fantastic record. Fantastic drone record. I think it has definitely been one of the highlights of a very good selection of new stuff that I've picked up this year, and older stuff. And also, now this one here has been like unbelievable. So I got this one at the Lines of Flight Festival right back in April, and actually the first 4 months of this year, or 3 and a bit months of this year, was pretty much a drought for me for vinyl. Work was very slow, I didn't have a lot of cash, and I basically went about 3 months without buying any vinyl at all, and then went hell for leather after. Actually, it was this festival in Dunedin plus the record store day sale that kind of kick-started my year off in April. Anyway, this Chris Walker, who I met down at Dunedin at the festival, who I know, I mentioned many times, who is a huge New Zealand music fan and who puts me onto so much New Zealand music, and he's talked to me about this record. We were talking about records that we were after on the weekend, and he spoke about this record, and to be honest, his description of it didn't really appeal to me. I mean, he said it was a droney piece, but the way he described it was kind of like, it didn't sound too great. Anyway, to my ears, but anyway, I was snapping up pretty much any records I could find that were getting sold by the artists there, and this one turned up, and it wasn't until after I bought it that he said, "Oh yeah, actually I think that's," and I sort of clicked and I said, "Oh, is this the one you were talking about?" And he said, "Yes." Anyway, I got it home and I played it, and it was just amazing. It's absolutely incredible. What I mean, it is. It's just a twang played. It's a guitar twanged and repeated and looped and repeated again and again, and for 40 minutes, 20 minutes each side. But there are very subtle changes, and if you listen to it, it's quite meditative. And this really took my fancy, and it's been played a lot of times this year. Absolutely love it. Right, we're getting down to the Bill Dyrene again. So this is a compilation, so it's not a reissue, but all the music has been issued before in various formats. But this is a compilation, double LP, called Bill Dyrene: A Memory of Others. And A Memory of Others is actually a documentary movie that was put out last year. This came out on Sophomore Lounge, official soundtrack for the film by Simon Ogston. And so the compilation covers most of his career from the late 70s or early 80s, right through to, the Utopians Just Out Boozing, which is his last single that the Builders put out only just a couple of years ago. I'm not sure if he's released anything since then, but this came with a download code for the documentary, which I watched, and it actually turned out I was at one of the gigs that they filmed that was cut into the documentary, and so that was pretty cool. That was back in 2016, and that was the first time I'd ever seen Bill play live, because I never saw him play back in the day, in the 80s. So, and I'd heard of him, I knew about him, and went to see him play, and they actually were filming that particular night, I think it was, and that got put into this documentary. I actually went to a gig after that when this documentary had just come out. I hadn't seen it, but he was around doing some more gigs at that stage. So fantastic selection, cross section of Bill's music over the last 40 years. Most of them I do have now on the original releases, but there are a few that came out on CD that I don't have yet, and I'm waiting on them for them to get vinyl reissues, because I am mostly sticking to vinyl for my New Zealand music now. So fantastic. That's only just been out a couple of months too. So it's been a real rush at the end of the year of fantastically good releases. And this is what I'm getting into now. This last one. These are my highlights of New Zealand releases on vinyl for 2019. And first of all, we have Miss June, Bad Luck Party. And this only just came out a couple of months ago, and they just played here live, and I went and saw them play, and they were fantastic live. Really full of beans. Punky post-punk. Great lyrics, great bouncy, punky, really good music. Really impressed. So that's a great album. That has been getting a lot of airtime on my turntable here, and so has this one, and this one is a real surprise, and this is really out of the box and didn't know anything about it. This is a Christchurch band, so they used to be called Belladonna, but they've changed their name to Saint Satori for this record, and then Belladonna is the name of the record. I had absolutely no idea. I had heard of Belladonna. I'd actually seen a video on YouTube of them playing somewhere, but I'd completely forgotten it anyway. One of the guys that works at my local record shop is in the band. He is on guitars. No, he's on bass on this one. Anyway, I was in Penny Lane Records doing some browsing, and the owner of the shop said to me, "Oh, hey, I've got something here you might be interested in." And he said, one of our guys is in the band and he's put out a record. And I said, okay. And I finished browsing and I had a look at, I said to him, I'll have a look. And he said, I've got a test pressing you can have a listen to. Popped it on the turntable just to get an idea of what sort of music what it was. I think I actually had it on the wrong speed. I think someone must have been playing at 45. But anyway, but I got enough from that because their turntables and their system that they use for listening to records is really horrible, but it gives you it's there to give you an idea. They don't have flash gear because people wreck them. I was impressed enough that I thought I'll buy it, brought it home, and it hadn't left my turntable for quite a while. It was been played many times. Fantastic, grungy alternative rock, female vocals, yeah, really kind of, and great production. It was actually produced by Delaney Davidson, who's who put out some pretty good records himself this year, actually, which I've got and shown. Always excited to for the new Mermaiders, for music from them. This is their third LP, second on vinyl. So last year, or was it 2017? Their first. Not their first album. I found out they got another one on Bandcamp that they released earlier, which is really good and needs a vinyl reissue. But this is their latest. The one before this, Perfect Body, was one of my albums of the year for that year. This is definitely up there with my, these are my top 4 of the year. These last 4 I'm showing you. This is definitely up there. Again, just saw them play recently in support of this record after they came back from the States. I think they've been touring. Yeah, very strong LP like their last one. She is getting better and better. Gussie is this. Both girls sing. There's Gussie's on guitar, and what's the other girl's name? I've got my reading glasses on. Come on, I thought their names were on the cover here somewhere. Sorry about this. I can't even find it. No. Anyway, so yeah, I know that Gussie plays guitar, the other girl sings, and I can't think of her name right now, plays bass, and they both sing, but Gussie, I think her singing has come a long way. It's really good. She's a really good singer, good guitarist, great band, great pop music, fantastic album. And then another one right out of left field and right out of nowhere, no idea of anything about them, but this one here, again, it's another one that I don't know how Chris gets onto these things, to be honest. He posted this up on his Facebook, Counting the Beat Facebook page. Of course, I had to ask what it was. He told me about it and, said that it was a really good record. I had to check it out. But the only way you could get hold of it was to actually Facebook the group. So Tiny Pieces of 8, Sea Shanties for Shrank. This is what's playing behind me. The record itself was pressed in a limited edition of 200. I have number 81, self-released. They had it pressed up at Holiday Records, our new pressing plant up in Auckland. There's a screen printed cover. This is an old classical record cover being turned inside out, re-glued, screen printed. There is a booklet with it in there. But yeah, fantastic record. This has been getting a lot of play here. This would be my record of the year for New Zealand. I know that, to be honest, the vinyl releases in New Zealand, and there are getting to be a lot more of them, and more than I can afford to buy, to be honest. Sort of having to start letting a lot of them go, buy the ones that I don't really need, but I really do chase the more obscure ones. But to be honest, the vinyl reissues, the vinyl releases are just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much stuff getting released just straight out digitally on Bandcamp. Of course, the CDs. A lot of bands just do CDs if they can't afford to do vinyl. So yeah, New Zealand's a small place, but there's far more music than one person can cope with just on his own listening to it all. But the vinyl is more than enough to keep me going. But yes, absolutely fantastic record. And that's what's playing behind me, if you can hear it. And this is going to get a lot more airtime. The lady in question is Deirdre Newell, and she actually released an LP. I I think called Tiny Pieces of Eight under her own name, and then changed must be some more different new musicians. That's on Bandcamp, but I haven't heard it. That previous record, I don't know what it's like, but I've just been too busy with this one because this is all over the place. It's fantastic. There's so many different styles going on and different types of songs, man. So that is a rough roundup of the year. Some of the best and most enjoyable and coolest records that I've brought this year, and there are a lot more other fantastic records that I have brought that some of them I can't even remember. The other 3 or 4 records I got off that International Anthems are just absolutely fantastic records, and I'm going to be chasing them up, their music up as much as I can. So alright, look, I've prattled on enough. I've kept you all busy for 25 minutes, wasted 25 minutes of your valuable time if you happen to be watching this. I hope you enjoyed it, and things will actually probably be slowing down next year. I want to actually attack my mortgage a bit more than I have been, and it's been a little bit over the top the amount of records I've been buying. So we're gonna ease back a little bit. Still trying to keep up with some of the local releases that I can, but and bits and pieces. But it's sort of, I have to ease back. But once I get the mortgage paid off, I can hoe back into it. But it costs a lot of money, this vinyl addiction. Anyway, happy Christmas, happy New Year, and happy vinyl hunting. Cheers. See ya.